Hey everyone, and welcome to my preview of this weekend's Portuguese Grand Prix. Well, not exactly a lot's happened in the build-up to this weekend's Grand Prix at Portimao, has it? But one of the big stories to break in the lead up to the Grand Prix is the new sprint qualifying format that will be taking place at three Grand Prix this season. So Silverstone, Monza, and third one's yet to be decided. They originally did plan for it to be at Brazil, but unfortunately, because of the high COVID rates, whether the Brazilian Grand Prix goes ahead, but also the fact that there are other circuits that have registered their interest in having the sprint format as well. So be interesting to see which third race that will be at. But like I say, the spring qualifying format will be at three Grand Prix this season. So the way it will work, just in case for you that don't know, so basically you'll have three practice sessions normal on Friday. But what will happen on Friday in the afternoon is you'll have a qualifying session. So the qualifying that normally takes place on Saturday will take place on Friday in the afternoon. And on Saturday, you'll then have the second free practice session. So just the two practice sessions as part of this format anyway. And then on the Saturday afternoon will be the sprint qualifying session, which will be basically a 100-kilometer race. And basically will then, wherever you finish, that will then set the grid for Sunday's race, which will be run at full distance. So I'm really intrigued to see how it all pans out this new format. And look, me personally, I like the format as it is right now. But anything that aims to improve the spectacle of Formula One, you have to try it, and we'll see how these spring qualifying formats work at the three Grand Prix this year. And I'm actually looking forward to it. I think it's good for Formula One that we're trying new things. But if it doesn't work out, if it's not a hit with the drivers and teams after we've had those three races, then it's not the end of the world. Then you can say at least you've tried it. At least you've given it a go. So I personally think it can work. I think it could potentially make the race weekends even more exciting. I think what's intriguing for me is with the format as well, potentially, with the first one being at Silverstone, fingers crossed, we get a bumper crowd at Silverstone for this year's British Grand Prix, and that would be good, and maybe entice a new audience into Formula One. So, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to the new spring qualifying format, and intrigued to see how it all pans out in the end, as I'm sure many people are intrigued to see how it works. So yeah, spring qualifying, one of the big Formula One stories to break in the lead up to this weekend's Portuguese Grand Prix. Um, Another story that broke this week is the Formula One will be heading back to Turkey. So Turkey will be replacing Canada, the Canadian Grand Prix, which I always the Canadian Grand Prix is always one of those races that I have to say I look forward to. But unfortunately, I know Canada are unfortunately suffering high COVID rates, and obviously as well as the quarantine as well, which means that unfortunately because of that, and obviously no Formula One, I think around that time I think they've got back-to-back races, so it wouldn't work out. So unfortunately, we won't be going to Canada this year, but fingers crossed we'll be back at Montreal next year. But Turkey, great to see Turkey back on the Formula One calendar. And if last year's race was anything to go by, then I think we'll be in for another thrilling Grand Prix. I think it's one of those tracks where the drivers love it. Yes, it's hard physically. It is a demanding track, but at the same time, I think it's a track that the drivers really enjoy. I know last year the Turkish Grand Prix was held later on towards the year where as a result, we did see those wet conditions. So because Turkey is a lot earlier this year, so perhaps we won't see the wet conditions. But even so, I still think we'll be in for a good Grand Prix. So good to see Turkey back on the calendar this year. So now we know that Callum Ilott will be has been announced as a second reserve driver for Alfa Romeo Racing this year. I think at the end of last season, we thought Callum was in contention for a race seat, potentially at Alfa Romeo or even Haas, but that didn't materialise in the end. But the fact that now he is a reserve driver with Alfa, so he'll share driving responsibilities, reserve driver, I should say, responsibilities with Robert Kubica this season. But you just never know. If Kimi does decide to call it quits at the end of this season, then perhaps Callum might be in a good position to then be able to take a full race seat for 2022 and potentially another Brit on the grid. So yeah, I'm really happy for Callum. I think he deserves the opportunity, and who knows now if he performs well in his reserve driver duties this season and impresses, if he gets opportunities to participate in free practice sessions, does a good job, then who knows? Maybe he will land a race seat for 2022. So Callum Ilott joining Alfa Romeo as one of their reserve drivers for 2021 this season. Also is round three this weekend, round three of the Formula One season, round three of Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen. Look, we've had two cracking races to kickstart the new season, and I can't wait. I really can't wait for this weekend. I think we're going to be in for a really good race. And last year's Portuguese Grand Prix, I was watching the highlights of last year's Grand Prix, and it was a cracker. Last year's race was a really good race, plenty of talking points, and yeah, I think this track at Portimao, and also as Formula One heads to Spain for Barcelona, I think those are tracks that you would think would suit the Mercedes car more. But I think Red Bull will be right up there again this weekend and also in Spain. So don't count them out. And I think we just want to continue to see Lewis and Max racing each other very closely, and I'm really looking forward to this weekend. I think it's too close to call in terms of who will come out on top this weekend. Portugal last year being the scene of Lewis Hamilton becoming the all-time record breaker of winning most races in Formula One. It was at that race last year where Lewis won his 92nd race in Formula One. When you think of it like that, it's quite remarkable what Lewis has been able to achieve in Formula One. But he's achieved it through sheer determination, hard work, and yeah, never giving up. So yeah, I think Lewis deserves to be where he is right now, and I couldn't be more happier for him. But he's definitely got a fight on his hands this year if he's wants to get an eighth driver's title this year. And with the way the first two races have panned out this year, then could he go down to the final race of the season? I think as a neutral, I think that's what we'd all love to see. But yeah, really looking forward to this weekend and round three of Max Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton. But I think it's also a big weekend for Valtteri Bottas and also Sergio Perez as well. For both drivers, didn't quite have well, fair to say, I think a weekend to forget Imola. Saw Valtteri involved in a huge incident, huge crash with George Russell, Imola, and then Sergio. Actually, had a really good Saturday, putting the car on the front row, but unfortunately wasn't able to convert that into a strong result. But Sergio, I still think he'll do well at Red Bull, and I still think he'll still do a good job. And he proved on on Saturday at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, that he can qualify, Max. He can do it. So I don't think Checo should be too hard on himself. But yeah, I think like I say, big weekends for Valtteri and Sergio this weekend, and another intriguing weekend to see at midfield in terms of who comes out on top in the midfield. So yeah, a lot to look forward to this weekend, Portuguese Grand Prix, and yeah, so just can't wait to for the Grand Prix weekend to get started. So that's the end of my preview looking ahead to the Portuguese Grand Prix. So you can follow me. I'm on Twitter at Baggies20 and also on Instagram, ManishPatel89. Anything you want to talk to me about Formula One, message me, and then yeah, we'll get in touch with your thoughts on how the season is progressing. So I hope you all enjoy the Portuguese Grand Prix. But by the time I do my review of the Grand Prix, I will have had my haircut. So yeah, can't wait to get my haircut. But anyway, you don't need to know about that. Anyway, enjoy the Portuguese Grand Prix, all of you, and I will catch up with you all soon. Take care, everyone.